Hello friends, this is Neha. Welcome to Learn Java with Neha. So today in this video we will be discussing about Java architecture. So let's discuss Java architecture in brief and then discuss all its parts and subparts in detail. In case yet you have not watched the previous videos like what is object oriented programming, and if this is your first video, please make sure you will go through the previous videos like what is object Java features and all. For your reference, I have added link in the description box. So let's start with Java architecture. Let's discuss Java architecture in detail. Let's discuss Java architecture. So basically your Java source file is converted by the Java compiler to the class file. So if I consider the name of my Java file is demo.java, the Java compiler will compile this file. Java compiler will compile the Java source file and it will be converted to the demo.class file. Then this class file will be transferred to class loader subsystem. Now for loading this class, the memory will be required. So this class loader will load this .class file in the runtime data areas, which is further divided into 5-part memory areas. So we'll discuss those memory areas in detail later. Before that, which is mainly consist of interpreter and the JIT compiler. While executing Java programs, sometimes execution engine may require certain library files, some native method libraries. So these native method libraries will be provided to your Java, to your execution engine through Java native interface, which is also known as JNI. So these are the different steps involved in the execution of your Java program. So let's discuss all these steps in detail. So the .class file is transferred to class loader subsystem. Now this class loader subsystem is responsible for loading of your .class file in the memory. This class loader is further divided into 3 parts, that is loading, linking and initialization. In loading, there are 3 parts. The first part is called as a bootstrap class loader. The second part is the extension class loader. And the third part is application class loader. This bootstrap class loader is responsible for loading all core Java API classes which are present in the bootstrap class path. This bootstrap class path consists of rt.jar file and some other important jar files that are supplied by the JRE installation. So then you have extension class loader. It is responsible for loading classes from the extension folder, that is ext folder. Application class loader is responsible for loading the application level class path, that is environment variables. Out of these 3 class loaders, Bootstrap class loader has the highest priority. If Bootstrap class loader is not able to load your .class files, then it is transferred to extension class loader. In case extension class loader is not able to load your .class file, then it is passed to application class loader. After loading, the next is linking. So linking is the second part of your class loader subsystem. In the linking also there are 3 activities. First is verify, the second is prepare, and the third is resolve. Once this .class file is loaded, verification will start. It will just check whether the bytecode is a valid or proper or not. Bytecode verifier is going to take care of that. If there is any problem that you will, in case it finds any problem that your bytecode is not valid, you will get a verify error. That's why we say Java programs are secure, and security is one of the most important feature of Java. So we get this security part or this bytecode verifier as a part of our JRE system itself. So you can execute in case it is verified and there is no verify error. If your bytecode is a valid and safe bytecode, you can execute it on machine as it is a valid and the safe bytecode. So we are making sure, it is going to make sure that whichever is the bytecode it is going to execute is a valid and safe bytecode and will not harm your machine by any ways. Then in prepare, the memory of static variables will be allocated and assigned with the default value. But the actual original value will be assigned at the time of initialization only. Then after prepare, there is resolve, where all symbolic references are replaced with the original references from the method area. In initialization, static variables will be initialized with the original values which are assigned in the programs, and static initialization blocks will be executed. I will discuss in separate video in detail what is static variable, why static keyword is used, or it can be used with which are the different things, like it can be used with variables, it can be used with classes and so on. And also I'll discuss what is static initialization block. So currently here uh, just understand that in initialization, all your static variables will be initialized with the value whatever you have assigned in the program, as well as the static initialization blocks will be executed at the same time. Now, after loading the class in the memory, it is transferred. Some memory is for .class file, some memory is required. So there are different memory areas. So under runtime area, there are different memory areas which are present. So let's see what are these different memory areas. The very first memory area is a method area. So after loading class, it is transferred to method area. In method area, class data is stored, such as field and the method data, the code for the methods and the constructors, etc. Again, what is method, constructors, we will be discussing in detail in the separate video. The same method area is stored, the same method area is stored among all JVM threads. Threads are nothing but the different processes you can see. After method area, the second area is a heap area where all objects and arrays are stored. After heap area, the third area is a stack area where the separate stack frame is created for different objects. All local variables and the flow of all called method is stored in the stack frames. There is a movable boundary between the stack area and the heap area. So heap area can be expanded or contracted depending on the need at runtime. The fourth memory area is a PC registers, that is nothing but program counter registers. So separate PC register is created for every thread. PC registers hold the address of a Java virtual machine construction currently being executed provided by the thread, whether if provided it is not native. Again, what is native and all will be discussed in detail when we'll go for multi-threading. Currently, you just have to understand the different parts of the memory areas which are created for different purposes. The fifth and the last memory area is a native method stack. So the separate stack frame is created for every thread in this area. So this is about the different memory areas where your .class file will be loaded by the class loader. Now, after method area, the code is passed to the execution engine, which is consist of your execution engine contains many more programs, but mainly it consists of interpreter and JIT compiler. So execution engine can communicate with memory areas. Execution engine mainly consists of two parts. The first part is the interpreter and the second part is JIT compiler. In the first part, that is in the JIT compiler, you have a first part that is intermediate code generator, which produces the intermediate code. The second part is the code optimizer, which is responsible for the code optimization. The third part is intermediate code generator, which is responsible for generating the machine, or it is also called as a native code. Interpreter is responsible for read interpret and execute the Java programs line by line. So interpreter interprets each line of code to native code. Doesn't matter how many times you call it. So if the method is called multiple times, interpreter is going to interpret it every time. So don't you think it's a wastage of time? So to take care of this problem, and instead of interpreting the same lines of code or the same methods again and again, provided it is called in your program again and again, there is something called as JIT compiler. So if any method is required multiple times, then instead of interpreting it every time line by line, the entire method can be converted once to the machine code, and JIT compiler is responsible for this. That means JIT compiler improves the performance by interpreting the commonly called method only once, and it will be reused number of times it is called in the program. So JIT compiler interprets only commonly used methods and not every method. So entire Java program needs to be interpreted at least once, and JIT compiler will come in the picture only if any method area is called repeatedly in the code. So to identify whether the method is called multiple times or it is called only once, a particular method whether it is a hotspot method or not, hotspot method is nothing but the method which gets called a number of times. So in order to identify such hotspot methods, profiler is responsible. So profiler will take care of all those things. So if there is any method which is called again and again, JIT compiler will store that interpretation somewhere, and it won't be interpret again and again. So JIT compiler will take care of all those things. Then garbage collector is also a part of execution engine. There are many more parts, but these are some of the main parts. Now, while executing Java programs, sometimes execution engine may require some library methods. So these native method libraries are provided by the Java native interface, which is also called as JNI. So who provides these native libraries to the execution engine for the execution of the program or for the converting your Java program to the native code? So that is Java native interface, who interact with the Java native library and provides information to the execution engine, so that your code will be converted to the machine code and or native code, which is finally gets executed. So this is your entire Java architecture, and I have discussed everything step by step. Even this is just for your reference. Even if you remember just the first diagram which I have shown, that is most important. Converted to class file by the Java compiler. Then your .class file will be loaded in the memory by the class loader subsystem. When it is loaded in the memory, there is some memory area is required, which is nothing but your runtime data areas, which is divided further into 5 memories. Then after it is stored in the memory, it is given to the execution engine. While executing this Java program, your execution engine may require certain native method libraries which are provided to execution engine through Java native interface. And finally, it is this particular Java bytecode is converted to your machine code, and finally it is executed. So we have seen this Java architecture in detail. Thanks for watching video. In case you have not yet subscribed to my channel, do subscribe it, and do not forget to click on the bell icon so that you will get all notifications as soon as I upload the next video.